Did you know that over 50% of people believe in love at first sight? On Valentine's Day, forget the roses and chocolates and prepare yourself for tales that will make your heart race for all the wrong reasons. In the next few minutes, you'll hear 3 spine-chilling stories that reveal the sinister side of romance. From eerie encounters to terrifying twists, these Valentine's Day horror stories will leave you questioning the true nature of love. So dim the lights, settle in, and get ready for a journey into the macabre. Are you brave enough to listen? Let's find out.
Story 1. The Horror in Oakville. In the small town of Oakville, enveloped by the winter fog and surrounded by the lush landscapes of the Pacific Northwest, the community was gearing up for Valentine's Day. Amid the festive spirit, a dark and sinister reality was about to unfold. Lila, a vibrant young woman with an infectious smile, had no inkling of the fate awaiting her when she stepped into the unassuming electronics store nestled in Oakville's quaint downtown. The shop's owner, Norman, was a man of peculiar contradictions. Known for his exceptional skill in repairing phones and gadgets, his nerdy, harmless exterior masked a dark and twisted obsession. Norman harbored a sinister fixation on brunette women, transforming him into a relentless predator. With meticulous precision, he had devised a terrifying method of ensnaring his victims. Each woman who visited his shop for repairs unknowingly left with a device that had been tampered with. Norman secretly installed tracking software on their phones, enabling him to monitor their every move. Alarmingly, many women who had sought Norman's services had vanished without a trace, stirring whispers and speculation among Oakville's residents. Yet no one had managed to connect the dots back to the unassuming repairman. When Lila handed over her phone for a simple battery replacement, Norman saw another opportunity. His eyes, usually dull and focused, sparkled with a maniacal intensity as he worked on her device. Unbeknownst to Lila, he installed the tracking software, fantasizing about his next victim's inevitable downfall. In the days that followed, Lila began to find notes addressed to her in places she frequented, her favorite coffee shop, the park where she jogged, even near her car. Initially, the notes complimented her beauty, which, as a single woman around Valentine's Day, left her feeling flattered and intrigued. However, the notes gradually became more malicious and insistent, escalating from "you're beautiful" to unsettling messages like "you're mine" and "I will have you." What started as a curious and somewhat flattering mystery quickly turned into a source of profound anxiety for Lila. Someone was watching her, tracing her every step. The horror reached its peak when, the day before Valentine's Day, Lila's phone suddenly stopped working. Vulnerable without her main means of communication, she decided to return to Norman's shop for assistance. It was a decision that nearly cost Lila her life. Upon entering the shop, Norman greeted her with a smile that barely concealed his excitement as he pretended to examine the phone. Lila's gaze wandered, and she realized the shop's innocuous appearance belied the danger within. Before she could react, Norman approached from behind and incapacitated her with a swift blow, dragging her into a hidden room behind a false wall. Awakening in a dim, suffocating space, Lila found herself surrounded by what appeared to be lifeless bodies of other brunette women, a chilling confirmation of Norman's gruesome activities. Panic turned to desperate resolve as she remembered the work phone in her purse. Frantically searching, her hands trembling, she managed to call the police, whispering her location and the desperate situation she was in. Thanks to her quick thinking, and the swift response of law enforcement, the police stormed Norman's shop within minutes, breaking through the door to rescue Lila and indirectly save future potential victims. As Norman was led away in handcuffs, his gaze met Lila's. In his eyes was a mixture of rage and disbelief. In hers, a fierce determination and an unwavering will to survive. Oakville could finally breathe a sigh of relief, freed from a nightmare that had lurked among them for too long. The town's residents, now aware of the hidden dangers, were more cautious, their celebration of Valentine's Day forever marked by the memory of the horror that had almost claimed another life. Story 2: Shadows of Deception. In the picturesque town of Riverton, love seemed to flourish between Grace and Michael, a couple admired for their apparent happiness and harmony. Michael, with his kind demeanor and disarming smile, was the boyfriend every girl wished for. Grace, sweet and blindly in love, believed she had found her true soulmate in him. However, beneath this facade of perfection lurked a dark and insidious truth that would shock not only their relationship, but the entire community. As Valentine's Day approached, Grace, searching for an old photo on Michael's phone, stumbled upon a hidden folder of encrypted messages. The sender was an unknown contact, and the messages were disturbing. Intrigued and disturbed, Grace began to decode them, uncovering a world of betrayal and secrets Michael had skillfully hidden. The messages revealed not only that Michael had been unfaithful throughout their relationship, but also hinted at far more sinister activities. They contained veiled references to secluded locations, midnight rendezvous, and discussions on making problems disappear. The contents read like a code for something much darker than mere infidelity. Grace felt the ground slip from beneath her feet as she realized the man she loved could be hiding something monstrous. Tormented by nightmares and unanswered questions, Grace decided to confront Michael. His facade of a devoted lover quickly crumbled under the weight of the evidence. What emerged was a portrait of a man who reveled in a dangerous game of manipulation and control, not just over the women he had relationships with, but over reality itself. Michael tried to justify his actions, downplaying the seriousness of his behavior, but Grace saw through his lies. The revelations became even more horrifying when hidden clues in the messages led Grace to discover a locked trunk in Michael's garage. Inside, she found personal items belonging to missing women from nearby towns. It was clear that Michael's betrayal concealed a horror even greater than she had imagined. He was not only unfaithful, but likely involved in the disappearances of these women. Heartbroken and terrified, Grace confronted Michael with the evidence of his guilt. Their relationship ended that stormy night, with Michael denying every accusation and Grace realizing she could never change the true nature of the man she believed she loved. However, the situation didn't end with the conclusion of their relationship. Michael, unable to accept the breakup and determined to maintain control over Grace, began to stalk her. Veiled threats, nighttime lurking, and unsettling messages became the new norm for Grace, forcing her to live in a state of constant fear and paranoia. Eventually, realizing she would never be safe as long as Michael remained nearby, Grace made the painful decision to leave everything she knew. She changed her name, quit her job, and fled to another state, hoping to escape Michael's obsession and start a new life away from her tormented past. The memory of Michael and the dark discoveries became a distant nightmare, one she hoped never to face again. However, one foggy morning, as she approached her mailbox, the past came knocking on the door with a ferocity that froze her blood. Among the bills and usual advertisements, she found a note written in handwriting she immediately recognized. It was from Michael. "Where did you think you were going?" The simple yet loaded message was filled with unimaginable terror. This note marked the beginning of a new, dark period. The community Grace had sought refuge in became a stage for curious looks and whispered rumors. Some neighbors and acquaintances, aware of only fragments of her story, speculated that Grace had gotten back together with Michael, perhaps driven by terror or a complex form of Stockholm Syndrome. Other, darker rumors suggested that Grace was planning to end the threat once and for all, plotting to kill Michael to free herself from his stalking. Although unconfirmed, these tales added an additional layer of mystery and tension around her figure, making her a constant topic of conversation. The truth, however, remained hidden behind the closed doors of Grace's house, now turned into a fortress. She ventured out less and less, and on the rare occasions she did, her appearance was that of a profoundly changed woman. Her gaze, once lively and full of hope, now reflected the depth of her torment. Grace lived in a perpetual state of alertness, determined to stay one step ahead of Michael. She consulted with security experts, installed multiple layers of protection around her home, and even took self-defense classes. The fear of Michael finding her again loomed large, but so did her determination to survive and reclaim her life. Despite the shadows of deception that had marred her past, Grace vowed to never let Michael's darkness consume her again. Story 3. The Haunting of Crestwood Mart. In the quiet town of Crestwood, Oregon, Melissa worked as a cashier at the local supermarket. As Valentine's Day drew near, the air was filled with an unusual chill. On this particular evening, Melissa felt lonelier than usual, watching the last customers hurriedly buy wilted flowers and discounted chocolates. Little did she know, a night of unspeakable terror awaited her. As Melissa prepared to close the store, an elderly woman shuffled in, almost invisible among the gathering shadows. Her eyes were hidden behind thick lenses, and her voice was a whisper. She asked Melissa to help her find a gift for her deceased husband to commemorate their wedding anniversary, which fell on Valentine's Day. Perplexed, but moved by compassion, Melissa agreed to help. The woman led Melissa to the back of the store, to a section Melissa had never noticed before. The shelves were lined with peculiar items: old, yellowed photographs, tarnished jewelry, and love letters worn by time. As Melissa examined the objects, a cold shiver ran down her spine, and the temperature seemed to drop. The elderly woman began to tell a tale of great love lost under mysterious circumstances many years ago on Valentine's night. As the woman spoke, Melissa started to hear faint noises, light footsteps echoing between the shelves, and barely perceptible whispers that seemed to call her name. The air grew heavy with an almost palpable electric charge. Melissa turned to invite the elderly woman to leave, but she had vanished, leaving Melissa alone among the eerie relics. Confused and frightened, Melissa tried to reach the exit, but every time she approached the automatic doors, she found herself back in the same aisle, as if trapped in an endless loop. Panic and terror gripped her as she realized the supermarket had become a supernatural labyrinth. a place where the boundary between the living and the dead blurred. Desperate, Melissa remembered an unsettling encounter earlier that day. A strange woman with quick, almost imperceptible movements had pricked Melissa's finger with a black pin while whispering words Melissa couldn't understand. At the time, she dismissed it as an accident, but now, in light of the night's events, everything took on a sinister meaning. Determined to escape, Melissa began to search for answers among the haunted items. She realized that the spirits of the lost lovers were trapped, seeking to communicate their sorrow and unfulfilled destinies. Each object told a story of love, betrayal, and untimely death, weaving a web of sorrow and longing that ensnared her. As dawn approached, Melissa's fear turned to resolve. She understood that the only way to free herself was to listen to the spirits' stories and offer them the closure they sought. She whispered words of comfort, promising to remember and honor their tales. One by one, the spirits seemed to find peace, and the oppressive atmosphere began to lift. Exhausted but free, Melissa finally broke the cycle. She stumbled out of the supermarket into the pale morning light, her heart still heavy with the night's experience. A slight burning sensation on her finger reminded her of the earlier encounter with the strange woman. This unsettling thought deepened when she realized that the black pin had been a catalyst, a conduit for the dark forces that had trapped her. Determined not to be intimidated, Melissa sought protection from a local herbalist who specialized in esoteric objects. With the help of the herbalist, she chose specific items to defend herself from further attacks. A small amulet to carry with her, purifying incense for her home, and bath salts to cleanse negative energies. As Melissa performed these rituals, the weight of her experience gradually lessened, and she began to perceive her life with greater serenity. However, Crestwood would never feel the same. The supermarket, once a mundane part of her routine, had become a place of haunting memories. Melissa knew she would forever be vigilant, aware that the boundary between the living and the dead was more fragile than she had ever imagined. The haunting of Crestwood Mart had left an indelible mark on her soul, a reminder of the night when the past's unresolved sorrows reached out from the shadows to ensnare her.